poor that they blew into the first and second story of the base. We had a ton of loot on both floors, so if there was a pancake layer out in the honeycomb, pretty much they couldn't have blown into both stories of the base. It's kind of hard to explain, but like I said, I'm going to talk about it a lot in my next video. Just know that pancake layers are very good and should be in every single Rust-based design.
Okay, so there's been some discussion recently about the use of pancake layers in bases. I know this is kind of an atypical video for me to make, so if you're not interested, feel free to click off. However, I'm still choosing to talk about it because I think it's an important topic that people need to be educated on if they want to build not only efficient bases, but just generally good bases. And no offense to Stevie, who is going to be the main focus on this video, but I wouldn't follow this particular recommendation. So for a while, Stevie has been using what he has coined as a pancake layer in many of his builds that he uses in his gameplay story videos. He typically mentions the usefulness of said pancake layer in a given video, but especially if it happens to benefit him in a raid scenario at some point in his story. He's advocated for pancake layers for a while now, but most recently he carved out a section of a gameplay video to explain the concept to the uninitiated. So with his points lined up, I felt it was a good time to react and debunk that. So he starts by saying he's going to give an impartial and objective assessment of what it is and if it's worth it or not for you. He says he isn't going to call it the best thing because it has its pros and cons obviously, so yeah, this is fine. Then he goes on to explain how to incorporate a pancake layer. These next parts I'll let him explain.
People have the misconception that pancake layers are made to defend against a top-down raid. This is only partially true.
Okay, yeah, so theoretically, somebody would use a pancake layer because they want to make top-down raids more expensive. Same sort of logic as floor stacking a base. But it's not the best reason to use it in a base still, and I'll touch on that later.
That's only an afterthought for me when I'm putting a pancake layer into my base designs. The reason I put pancake layers is because they're extremely good at defending from side raids, because essentially what they do is they make it so rockets, which do splash damage, cannot split the first and second story of the base. They can only break into the first story in the pancake layer or only break into the second story in the pancake layer. So by adding one pancake layer, you're essentially doubling the raid cost if the raiders also want to get to the second story. And this feature, so to speak, is a big deal because so much of the effectiveness of rockets comes from that splash damage.
Okay, so nothing against Stevie for not knowing this, since clearly he's a PvPer and not an experienced builder, but this is partially wrong. Let me show you why. Against vertical walls, simply putting rockets into the middle of a half-height layer will open both floors despite using a pancake layer. Of course, it can still help to an extent by increasing raid costs slightly more than not having it at all, but generally speaking, strictly using half walls for a pancake layer is horribly inefficient. And as Stevie said himself, half walls cost just as much as full walls, so you might as well just use the full walls and utilize the space since you're already okay with the added cost of effectively adding another floor. Unfortunately, even if you opt for a full wall in the middle for a second story instead, Rocket Splash can nearly break the walls above and below. Sir Taiga and Vice have excellent videos which break down these raiding fundamentals further than I'll be doing here today. Those are some good videos to check out, so I'll have those linked in the description. So yeah, for this next part he shows two bases, one with a pancake layer and one without. And for a situation where a raider doesn't know or chooses to only focus the first in pancake layer or the second in pancake layer, I understand why Stevie thinks that using it is good because in this scenario, the raider wouldn't get both floors. But again, that's if they don't aim for the half wall. And again, you might as well just cut the half wall out and actually utilize it as a second floor since it costs the same as if you had a 3-story high base.
If you frequently raid, you know that that's what makes rocket raiding so lethal, so effective, and really explosive ammo raids for that matter too. The splash damage, blowing into multiple floors of a base at one time, and that is eliminated if a base has a pancake layer. Simple.
He's right. Rockets are especially very efficient because of this, and it really puts people's bases to the test. It means that you have to take a lot of things into consideration when building your base to make sure it's not vulnerable to somebody who actually knows what they're doing. And unfortunately, like I showed, pancake layers aren't the best answer.
You may remember from my solo raid defense video a few months ago, the pancake layer was in action then for an online raid defense, and it saved me like half of my loot. It has yet to fail me, and that's why I speak so highly about it.
You know, and here's the thing, I'm not coming in here to shit on Stevie and call him a bad builder. I don't blame him for not knowing this kind of thing, and that's cool that it worked out for him in that situation. And I understand why he thinks so highly because of it, because from his experience, he's only had success with it. But yeah, objectively, it isn't great, and I'll touch on some more points about that next, and address his testimony again near the end.
But all of the benefits of a pancake layer come with a significant cost, and that cost is the cost. They are extremely expensive to make because half walls are the exact same price as regular walls. So in making a half wall layer for the pancake layer, you're essentially making another full layer in terms of cost. It's expensive.
Yep, and again, that is the main problem. You're adding a honeycomb layer that can't be used for anything else, so you might as well just use it as a second floor since you're already paying for it. And as I showed, unfortunately, you're not even getting the defense. You're effectively paying a lot for something you're not getting a lot of benefit out of.
You need to do a cost-benefit analysis of everything you're going to be going through in a wipe. Are you going to be making rivals that are going to want to raid you? And if so, and you think a pancake layer would help you a ton, do you have the resources available in your area to be able to make a pancake layer? Do you have teammates that are willing to put their heads down and do a bit of farming to be able to put one down? These are things you need to think about before just making one.
Yeah, so pancake layer aside, you need to have a base design that makes sense and is worth it if you're building up. That's just some fundamentals of good base design and that you'll be paying for regardless. If you have rivals, you should be making a base that cost-wise is the same as having a pancake layer, but uses your space more efficiently, and actually helps you get to a stage where you can make your base very offline focused or online focused. Good base designs use both. Instead of a useless pancake layer, you can very easily make your base higher, include the same number of floors for top downing, and then focus on making your roof actually defendable to discourage or outright prevent players from attempting. Combining that with a shooting floor that uses easy to incorporate wide gap battlements, and you will actually have a defendable base.
Listen, I will admit, there are definitely Rust base designs, base features on YouTube that are probably more protective for a cheaper cost. But for me, it's all about the simplicity. I don't want to live in a bunker base. I don't want to have to plan things ahead. I don't want to have to find a build spot that isn't on a slight incline or decline. I don't want all these constraints. I don't want this complexity because in Rust, there's not always time for that. Pancake layers are simple. You can slap them on the core of any base design and make them work.
Okay, so yes, you don't have to have the best, strongest, cheapest base, but using pancake layers are just straight up a horrible choice for lots of previously mentioned reasons. We've established that. I can get simplicity. Yeah, bunkers are annoying and usually have some kind of vulnerability. Sure, I can kind of get not wanting to have to plan things ahead, but generally it's really not that hard to do. You don't have to go super try-hard about it, but having a design that just works and actually has half-decent features isn't that difficult, especially if you're willing to accept that it doesn't have to be the best. Planning ahead just means that you can use your time efficiently to maximize your fun. And that's the thing about having a plan, is that you don't have to worry about constraints or whatever. These complex things to you won't feel as daunting, and they provide so many more benefits than pancake layers, and it isn't that hard to make some time for multiply higher usefulness.
Now, like pretty much everything in life, it all comes down to preference, right? This is my opinion. So if you don't like the pancake layer, it's no problem. Just please don't go to the comments and say, oh, it's so inefficient, blah, 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 do this, do this. I know the pros and cons. I've weighed them. And yeah, that's my spiel.
So yeah, I understand his preference and his opinion. But going back to the beginning, unfortunately and objectively, pancake layers are just not good. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not mad over this because of a lack of efficiency. I simply wanted to make sure people are informed. Stevie has made his case and swears by his experience that using pancake layers have worked for him, and that's great. But I get caught up on him recommending it to others based on that experience because, to no fault of his own, he just happened to be uninformed, and my hope is that he and anybody else who saw his video and supports pancake layers can see this, educate themselves, and correct that. And I don't fault Stevie, since I know he's not a builder or an expert raider because of it. It is very difficult to design actually good bases, and you'll learn a lot about how to see the flaws in others' bases and raid them efficiently by understanding and striving to make your own builds better. At the end of the day, I know Stevie isn't as passionate about building as I am. He PvPs, and he makes decent story videos. Anyways, if you guys like this kind of thing, let me know in the comments. If it's well received, I might make some kind of building series that debunks things or explains the benefits of using certain things. And if not, that's okay too. This has just been on my mind for a while and has been talked about in the building community, so I felt like sharing my thoughts on it. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing for future content, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.